Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I always like to start with Disco Inferno. When my wife met me in Atlanta, I had a disco ball in my house. Actually, that's not true. I didn't have a disco ball in my house, but I did have glow in the dark planets stuck on my ceiling. So she thought that was the most bizarre thing for somebody in their 30s, but she liked it. So it was pretty funny in there. But typical bachelor pad, that was pretty funny. But getting back to about the market today, I got to tell you, is if you trade, well, one is Twitter is working great. In fact, I was going over which were the worst trades I had this week and the best. And the worst one was really Garmin. And most of them, not only were they good, but they kept you out of trouble. So, keep that in mind in there. So I think they work pretty well. Couple of things. One, if you're going to trade before the opening, and you see the ES is up, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So a friend of mine actually this morning, when the ESs were up, I was showing him this, and I said, if the ESs are up and the bonds are down and crude oil's down, we ain't going up, because the whole reason the market went up yesterday was the natural resource stocks, is one of the reasons. So the idea in here is before the opening, when I saw this and I saw Citigroup and Wells Fargo not acting well, I'm like, what's holding the market up? And sure enough, then it went down, and it's always the point of no return, that the bonds went down enough that it hit the market. But don't forget, I've been harping on this, harping. Where do you short the bonds? You shorted at resistance so you have a backstop. That's how the floor traders do it. They short right here, right in here, so they know their backstop. You have to understand that a lot of people got hooked up there. So if you were in the floor trading, I'm trying to go back to show you. If you're on the floor trading, there's floor brokers out there wanting to sell the bonds right here, because that's where their clients all really started to lose money. So just keep that in mind there. That's how it works. Would you have gotten stopped out right here? No, it's a zone. That's 18. That's 150.18. That's all I'm telling you, is that was the advantage of having a seat, is you'd be shorting bonds right here. I wasn't on the bond pit, but that's the way it works. And there's a broker that has 10,000 to sell right here, and you sell 50 of them, and you say, hey, will you stop me on 50 if we get above there? It's like, sure. So you make friends with the floor broker. I never made friends with the brokers. I was a newbie in there. I always did my own thing, so I just had to be faster than everybody else. But a lot of people just were pals with the brokers and did stuff like that. But that's how you know when to short at resistance. So just keep that in mind. By the way, can everybody hear me okay? Just want to be sure you can hear me. Great. Okay. So a bunch of things in here. Number one, I'm not saying we're going down. I'm just saying that was the temporary blip, that you don't go long into the bonds. When you see stimuli changing, you get yourself out of town. So if you were long the ES and you're trading day trading, where would you have stopped yourself out prior to the CPI? Well, one thing, I warned you about the CPI wasn't going to be good. I mean, my goodness, it was going to be higher than expected. And retail sales, that's what bonds were telling you. But you stopped yourself really either at the right here, that little ledge, or when it first broke, probably on the ET or trailing stop. Never short the first one, short the second one, or stop yourself out on the second one. But, that's what I would have done. But getting back to it, so what are we going to do today? I wasn't a black sheep. I just didn't fall, 16 golfer. I didn't fall for the thing of making pals with people I didn't really like just so I could get fed the orders. I was always a lone wolf in there about that. So I had to learn how to do feel. I had to go in there and be faster than everybody else. And I also had to learn charting and all that. And that's why when there was the transition to the floor, we had 800 traders with that firm in New York that was basically a day trading firm. I was the only one from the floor that made money. The only one. Not one other person that was a floor trader made money, because they never learned how to trade. They knew how to get fed. And You know, you see some of them on CNBC that never knew how to trade. They know how to market, and we'll just leave it at that. So just to keep that in mind. But I always just did it on my own. And, you know, that's the same thing with insider trading. I was given a lot of opportunities to do insider trading, and I wouldn't do them. So, you know, just to let you know that. So getting back to it in here, what do we do now in the market? Well, number one, I always talk about strike price plays. This is not out of the woods yet of going back to 175. The problem is this. It looks great on a chart. So, you know, you got to be careful, because if you're wrong, it'll go to the strike at 177.5. So, you know, if this had a bear flag, if it looked like this, let me just show you. I'm going to put Apple upside down. If it looked like this, I'd be buying probably about 20 or 30 puts, not one. But it's the opposite. So, I mean, I don't have a clue yet in Apple. It's going to be one of those that it's a better sale at 175.50 than 176. So just keep that in mind in there. So a bunch of other things I wanted to go over in here. One, you think the traders were tipped off a little about Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, and Citigroup? Unless it's changed from where I saw it 5 minutes ago, check this out. We know that JP Morgan refused to go down yesterday, and that Citigroup, other than the pop, and Wells Fargo on the closing pop, that the only one that acted halfway decent was JP Morgan. And what's going on today? Look at this. JP Morgan up up 20 cents. It's not going crazy. Citigroup unchanged. Wells Fargo down. Like I told you, the biggest risk one was Wells Fargo. It's just amazing how traders know this crap. It just fascinates me in there. So, yeah, let me just tell you, I'm looking at ALXN. I have a whole thing of what, you know, like I told you, I do a script. So look at the first thing on my script. You can still scan for uppers until the IWM reaches its objective. You know, the other thing is mention the big deal that JP Morgan, the revenues were down. And this I posted an hour ago. If the oils and banks down, does the SPX go down? And then, like you just mentioned, watch the cheap calls in Twitter, Alexon, and HOG. So, you know, luckily in here, I didn't say something like cursing, like, what the hell was I doing in Garmin and all this? But, you know, so that's what I do every morning is I build an old script. I mean, look at the one yesterday. This one's huge. Every day I build a script. So, I mean, just if you want to know what I use, by the way, I use iCloud because that syncs across your computers. So this is on a Mac, Windows, but I did it on a Mac notepad and it syncs. It's great to take notes on. So just to keep that in mind. So what are we going to trade right on the opening? There goes Apple. I don't have the guts to short it here. If you decide to short it when it has that good a chart pattern, you got to short much less than what you usually short. You know, just keep that in mind. That's number one. The other thing in here, let me get them in front of me. This is going to be the interesting play of the day. I'm going to put 3 charts on here. Remember what I talked about? Day trade shorts, but swing trade longs. And I'm going to show you both sides of that. This is what I'm going to be watching. Crude oil, well, now it's above it almost. Remember I talked about that support? Now it got above it. So my thesis might be wrong here. But my theory was that if oil stayed down and the ESs on the left stayed up, you could short some of the oil stocks for a quick trade. But now oil's rallying, so we'll see what happens. I'm not sure of this trade. You know, just keep that in mind. If you decide to do something like this, look where Exxon was. Before the pop yesterday was 84. You might be able to get the 87 puts for like 10 cents. And that's a cheap shot, you know, just in case. But, you know, we'll watch those. I really want to watch those. Funny about DISK, I was looking at DISCA. because sometimes those have big open interest, but that's for next week. So, the chart looks like it could go higher. Is that the one you were talking about, Chris? Okay. It's, let me just show you. I have no problem putting that on the takeover list because I've always thought that's a takeover candidate. I just can't watch all of them. But yeah, I mean, that has a pretty good looking chart, no doubt about it. Here's some of the takeover ideas. Got to take out Rockwell. It's already gotten taken over. Twitter's already up 68 cents. But the point in here is, there's a number of things I'm looking at. Probably the thing I want to do the most is trade some option expiration stuff if I see it. So first thing I wanted to show you was what I look at. I go to this. I look at what stocks have big open interest today. There aren't a lot, so it makes it much easier to show you. So all I did is I took stocks over 20. You can make it over 5 if you want, that have open interest of at least 8,000 of some options. And I took at least 2 days till expiration. You can make that a 1, but I'm always afraid it rounds off wrong. And I made from 15 cents to $1.50. You don't want it so far out of the money, it's not going to matter. You can make this 5 cents if you want. You'll see it's all of 8 stocks. So if you change this to 4,000 open interest right here, you get 18 stocks. But you get the usual suspects, the Apple, Micron, Alibaba, NVIDIA, and so on. So I'll show you. If you're new in here, the theory is that stocks, especially on a slow day, tend to go to their strike price. This one doesn't show me anything. Just has a lot of open interest, so that's out. You want where they're just outsized, even MU this week, just nothing. Now, next week, look at MU. There you go, 74,000 at 43. 54,000 at 42, and also a lot of put activity. You want it to be evenly dispersed if you can on the calls and puts. So, just keep that in mind. Facebook, who knows with Facebook? They changed their whole business strategy. When something is tremendously in the news, you don't care about the open interest. Plus, it's not that much anyway this week. So that one's out. But, you got Facebook, you got Micron. Micron is going to be great because the stock has been moving a lot intraday, but the options are really cheap. If that, keep that in mind. The danger in Micron is this. Is this a ledge or is this an inverse head and shoulders? So you got to just play on how it's acting. So, the NASDAQ's down, so that sort of throws that out of, because it moves with the NASDAQ. So I am not sure how to trade Micron. Remember, on some of these moves, you do not have to do the opening. Just keep that in mind. I'm telling you, I wish Apple had a worse chart. Let me just show you what I mean by that. Look at that. This is showing the pre-open. They usually do that within 15 minutes of the opening. I know that it's probably going to go to 175, but I don't have enough reason, so I just can't do it. So I wish I could, but I just can't do it. And if I miss it, I miss it. Now, if this had 176 puts instead of every 2.5 points, sure, I'd be all over maybe taking a shot, but I just can't. So, just keep that in mind. So let me go over a bunch of things I'm looking at today. I wanted to mention Roku. Roku's up because of what I told you. They're starting to take up everything that didn't go up. If this stock does this today and goes to that 45 resistance, let me show you. Right in this little ledge here, look on the bottom left, right at 45. And all of a sudden breaks under the 1 minute again, I might look to buy the 45 puts. Now, you can always go and buy the 44 puts. They're going to be really cheap. So just keep that in mind. They're probably going to be 10 cents, and it's worth a shot, but you got to wait for some cross. That's one thing in here. Yeah, the farther you go out, the less important. So if Micron has a lot in February, it's not going to move the stock now. It'll move it in February, but not now. So just keep that in mind. So let me show you a bunch of others in here that I'm looking at. Obviously, I'm going to watch JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup. And I'm sure there's all kinds of analysts coming out with things in here now about them. And by the way, SALT was just upgraded with a buy. GNK upgraded with a buy. Nah, that one's wrong. They put the wrong price. So just, that was the next thing I was going to mention, the shippers. So right on the opening, I'm going to stay close to the vest. We're finally seeing some divergence, obviously, because of Facebook in here. And we'll just see, the bonds looking weak. I am not going to chase anything on the opening when the bonds are down 20 and the NASDAQ's down. So just keep that in mind. If I was going to chase anything at all, it would probably be ALXN. That's the only one I probably would chase. But let me put it this way. If it sits in this area for an hour, the 23 calls are going to be about 30 cents. And then we're talking. You might ask, well, why would you buy those? Because if it gets over 123 and over this kind of stuff, see this? It might stick around 124, but if it gets over, it goes right to 126. It's a great risk reward. For next week, they're probably too expensive. Let's see. Yeah, $2. Just can't do it. If you want to go and buy some kind of vertical, like the 123, 126 for next week, for $1, I totally understand. Just understand it has to go up $1.50 just to break even. So I would rather see more proof that it's going to continue up before I mess with that. So just keep that in mind. But that's one of them I'm going to be watching is ALXN. I'm going to watch MU both ways. And I'm still going to watch HOG. I mean, it acted great yesterday. Did anybody come in buy HOG yesterday? I'm hoping somebody bought it. I mean, I've been touting that for like 3 days. Nobody? All right. Well, at least I gave you the idea. But let me just show you. The next thing I'm going to show you, I'll do this in the swing trade video, is I went through FinViz and I went through all the stocks over their 50-day moving average between 1 and 20, that the price is between 1 and 20. And I went through every stock over 20 that was under their 50-day. So the first thing I want to show you, these are more long-term ideas. Here's some of the schlock rising to the surface. Look at these stocks. CRNT, CUR, ZN, and then you get to some more expensive ones, GPRE and AMBC. But see, you see why AMBC stopped where it stopped. Look at that. That looks just like HOG did the same thing. Look at this. Where it stopped right here. Obviously HOG already had more of a constructive chart. So let me show you a bunch of things of what I'm talking about. Why would I even show you schlock? Because of this. Look what some of the schlock has done. Let me put it up here so you know. And I'm sorry if you work for the companies I say are schlock. So I apologize. I'm going to bullish screener. Wrong one. No, I know why. Because it took all the volume. There we go. Take any. So like 800 stocks, but start at the cheapies. And I want you to see what some of these cheap stocks have done already. I avoid the ones $1 usually, but look at these. I mean, they've had some massive moves in here. Like I said, I don't particularly like dollar stocks, but I just wanted to show you, like CGA, what some of these have done. That's why I went to a little more expensive. And you'll see some of them look like bull flags. I'm not saying these are obviously risky, but I'm just showing you some of them, like ARLZ. So, I mean, if you want this scan, I'll show you what I did. You go to all, and this is it. You go to the free part of FinViz. If you want this scan, it's just right here. This is as easy a scan as I can do. I did optionable and shortable. You don't even have to have that. Just price above the SMA 50 and between 1 and 20, and then scroll down and look at them. But like I said, if the market starts selling off, these aren't the best stocks in the world. I mean, they're more, you want to get in before everybody else. But the other thing I want to show you real quick, all for 1 minute, is check out the stocks that are over 20 that are under their 50 SMA. $382 stocks. That's amazing. Take out the ETFs, 336. Look at the ones that have bad charts and how they kept going down. EQIX is a REIT. But go and check this out. There you go. There was your flag, and it worked. Remember, you're in a group that looks bad too, always helps. But I couldn't believe how many stocks don't look right. Like I said, a lot of these are utilities. Take those out, and I'm fascinated. There are a number of them that don't look great. And, that goes with the theme that, that the advanced decline other than yesterday has been really weak. And if you want to go to the cheapies, here are some for you. In fact, let me find the one I was going to show you that I thought was a real good one. Give me a second. So I hope this makes sense of what I'm showing you in here. Like COHU. It doesn't mean, these could all get pulled up if the market stays up. But look at FIVN. Like I said, these are ideas that the market starts, rolling over. It's just an idea to show you that there are a lot of stocks that don't look great. That doesn't mean you have to go short them today. Today is more about initiating intraday trades. Like I said, the theme right now is swing longs and day trade shorts. So, as long as crude stays here, you see the upper left? I might try to short Exxon on the opening. It's up. CVX was a lot higher earlier, unfortunately. But you never know. I mean, like I said, if you're going to mess around with a stock that's in straight up mode, what you're going to have to do is have a real tight stop. My problem is it's still over everything. So I would more rather do Exxon, and I'd short it here. Wait, just a second. I would rather short it there and stop myself at the high. That's a tighter stop. But, they're still in big old bull markets. I'm just taking advantage that crude oil has stayed under the breakdown. Do you see that? Obviously, if crude oil, this is a false breakdown, it goes like this, you might be wrong, but it might be worth a trade if they open higher. So that's just interesting. So don't forget, Richard, the McClellan oscillator, the problem with McClellan, I really respect his work. The high yield bonds, no doubt about it. You're watching that with the whole market, but it hasn't worked, number one, because they had this big sell-off and we haven't done anything in the SPX. But the others, don't forget the McClellan oscillator, the equity one has been overbought now for so long. It just hasn't worked because we're still in an uptrend in the SPX. I like when an oscillator, when the market's under things and it getting overbought. But here it can just stay where it is. But do you have the link to it? I'd like to read it because I love his stuff. So if you find it, let me know. I'd definitely like to read it. So this is what everybody's going to be watching today. The NASDAQ right here. I know most of this is Facebook. I understand that. But just keep in mind, I want to put up my my watch list. Already Apple's selling off. Unbelievable. But this is what everybody's going to be watching. Remember you asked me, how does something work off an overbought? What do you mean? Look at a 15-minute chart of the NASDAQ. Just a second. I got to get rid of my synergy in here. There. Look at a 15-minute chart. See the bear flag? Is this going to get worked off by going to a new high, or is it finally going to just sit here? That's what everybody's watching. Right there. Everybody is watching this support right here. If that finally breaks, we're going to have the first negative divergence we've had in a while. So just keep that in mind. Thanks, Kevin, for sending that to me. But that's, that's what we're going to be watching. In regard, by the way, to AKAM, I don't know about a good short. I see the doji you're talking about, but the stock's in a big old bull market and it's a rumored takeover. So I'm not going to go near that one. I mean, just keep that in mind. I just don't know. I want a short on something that looks already rolling over. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. The other thing, Justin, I was still going over what you did in NetEase yesterday because I probably would have done the same thing because the market was pulling up things even with bearish chart patterns. So I'll just show you real quick of why I would have gotten stopped out, and probably would have given up. Look at Disney on the right on a 5-minute chart, and look at NetEase on the left on a 5-minute chart. See the bear flag? Well, this one worked, but see that and see that? They didn't work. This one worked the day before, but I'm talking about this little one here. Just didn't work. And that's why I probably would have gotten stopped out too. The only difference I might have put in above this 333 level and had a wider stop. But I didn't feel, I understand you didn't want to lose 2 points. Totally understand in this kind of environment. So, now it'll probably catch up with the rest of the group. So it's probably already up. So let's go back to Apple in here. If you're even going to think of shorting Apple, you just have to wait. I wouldn't be surprised to see it open here, and the next thing you do, it's already down. But I just can't touch it until I have more proven. So just keep that in mind. The other thing, real quick, I am really looking at these shippers again. So just keep that in mind. I think if you want some shipper for next week for expiration, you can buy some cheap shipping stock options. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. I have this on a different screen. Like DSX, if you want, we'll go over these on the opening. EGLE, I'm not saying they're going to work, but I bet there's some cheap options you can buy. Just keep that in mind. So, I'm not saying you have to go crazy, but like this one looks great, MATX. I never knew that was in shipping. I thought that, so I didn't usually have that up. But I'm just saying there's going to be some cheap options just in case there's some kind of shipping explosion. So, yeah, explosion to the upside. So I'm going to watch that really closely. But I really think on the opening that we just keep close to the vest here on the opening. And, if it looks good, after 5 minutes, great. So let's just see HOG real quick. Well, here's another one. If you want to partake in the HOG because you think something's going to happen, the problem is it's probably going to open up a little and then sell off because nothing happened overnight. How many days have we seen that where it does this little wither on the opening and then goes crazy? So right after the opening, I want to watch ALX on an HOG, no doubt about it. I'm actually putting them up here, so I'm sure I'm watching them. Give me a sec. I'm trying to put them all up here all at once. So that's what I'm going to be doing right on the opening. I don't want to get caught on the opening. So good morning, Jim. So let's just see where everything opens right on the opening. I just about to hear the beep. And let's see what happens. There we go. So I'm just watching, obviously, Apple opened at 176.18, is now 175. Just unbelievable in there. That's where if you want to throw in to short like 10 share, 50 shares just to see if it works. But HOG doing nothing yet. And let's see Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is up, which I'm surprised. It was down all morning. In fact, if you had to do something, well, I'm not going to touch it. We'll see how they react to react to this later in the day. So I just want to be real careful in here on the opening, like I said. So ALXN is already up. What did I mention about HOG? I'll just show you on this chart. It's much easier to show you. In fact, I'm going to put Apple up here so you see it. As you see, the banks are reacting good to so-so news, so I'm not going to touch the banks. There'll be a time, but why mess with them when they're so far above their ATR trailing stop? Does that help showing you multiple charts? I'm hoping that helps. Cool. All right. But you'll see. I mean, what looks good, what looks bad? What are we getting? The first initial little sell-off in HOG, but it still looks pretty good. Square, you never got a chance. Somebody upgraded IBM. Watch this by the end of the day. Go into the strike price. I told you about the idea of Textron. It's already up, unfortunately. Boeing's up like it's always up. So ALXN, it's already up. So just unbelievable on how this is working on some of these. So, this is the one I think of all of them we should be watching. And just to let you know, I did my futures this time. And this time I did it. So I snagged it, and it messed up the second I changed it again. Unbelievable on what's going on in there. But do you see why you don't mess with Apple yet? Let it catch up. It just isn't the right time to mess with the strike price play. Of all the banks, the one I'd like to short is Wells Fargo because it reacted so bad this morning. So let's see where the 63 puts are for today. It's already going down. Darn it. You might ask, why did you pick Wells Fargo? So I hope you realize why I picked Wells Fargo. This is an old trader trick. Everybody seems to like those. Look where Wells Fargo was trading right before the opening. That's right. It was trading here. And look where it is. Now it's back to where it was trading. I didn't think it would do it that fast. Is that amazing or what? I just find that fascinating. So it was trading here, opens here, and now it's back to where it was trading pre-opening. Those things can be pretty powerful way to make money. You probably could get back in around 63. So I find that really interesting on how that works in there. In fact, let me just see something. Darn it, I've already missed it. Let me see the next bounce. This is what's going to happen next in Wells Fargo, at least in my opinion. It's going to work off this oversold, get up to right here, and then plow through it and go down by that amount. That gets you to around 62. That's what I wouldn't be surprised to see. But I missed it right. It happened so fast. when I saw that, I showed you the chart instead of just pounding it out. So, just interesting on how that works. Let's see if it goes here now and goes right to here. So, that's what I'm going to be watching. And I hope I saved you an Apple. I told you I could not short it. I just didn't have enough reasons. And the only reason I'd short it is the strike price. No other reason. So I just didn't have enough reasons. So let's look at some more. Unfortunately, I'm going to go back to this. And HOG, after that initial just sell-off, went straight up. So I always watch the takeover stocks after the opening to see how they react. Because some people, look at this. Some people are like, oh, it didn't get taken over. I want to get out. We've seen that almost every day in Twitter until today. So what it does is it blips for the first hour, and then they go back up. So, let me just see something here. Let's see where the ALXN 123 calls are, just for fun. That's tough when it's only traded 32,000 shares. I wonder if you remember, you always value it by the puts. So these puts are probably like 30 cents. So you could buy the 122s. I just can't do it, not yet. But if I could buy the 123s for like 10 cents, I would. Probably buy 10 lot. But I'll just put in to buy one. Of course, they don't show my bid. There you go. See? So what's the theory in there? The theory is if you buy something that's air because it's out of the money, if this explodes up, you're going to make it's a great risk reward. Now, ideally, I have the stock go down to 122 and you can buy the 122 calls cheap. But that's an idea. No, I'm not touching Apple. The point was that Apple has big open interest at 175, but the chart looks too good. So I'm not touching it. It just, the theory isn't there. It looks too good on a chart. Did you see Wells Fargo? I missed Wells Fargo. I'm just disgusted. Look at that. It's going back to where it was trading. I'm telling you, these things work. And I should have just thrown in an offer on the opening. Why didn't I? Because I didn't have any points of reference. I could have theoretically shorted it here and stopped myself at the high yesterday. But, it worked. It just worked. It's just amazing. Intel, I was going to say that I don't like watching the open interest in there, but it's just not enough for a gigantically. You want the open interest to be close to what the average daily volume is. It's just not enough to make a difference this week. Maybe next week. Yeah, next week, yeah. We can mess around with it next week, no doubt about it. But this week, I don't think it's going to matter. So, all right, let me see a couple of others. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. When I'm looking at and I'm scanning all my charts of what to do, I'm looking and I'm seeing what looks good, what looks bad. And I'm watching that Citigroup's acting okay. JP Morgan finally got under the ATR trailing stop, but the turkey was Wells Fargo. And I just missed it. It could go under 62 now. So keep that in mind. Remember I told you I wasn't going to touch Exxon and CVX, thank goodness. Check this out. This is my other chart. They just went straight up. I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. Maybe later in the day, but not now. So, this is my other chart. I'll tell you a trade for next week, but this is going to be contra trend. Garmin just doesn't trade that much. It didn't work this week because it didn't have that much open interest. And it had the CES show. But notice next week, 4,000 right here and 1,000. So you might ask, how do you trade Garmin without getting your head handed to you? Well, one, it's at resistance. It obviously hasn't crossed anything yet. But if this gets down to like under 61, this could definitely go right to 60. So, keep that in mind. So Walmart, there's another one. Yeah, I see the bull flag you're talking about. The problem is I don't like a bull flag right at this big old resistance. But yeah, I mean, I got to look at both sides of the story, no doubt about it. Let's go back to ALXN because I'm watching the NASDAQ start to rally. It just doesn't have it today. So let's look at two of them in here. I think ALXN is going to have a pop later, but it isn't right now, no doubt about it. Let's see where these calls are. Somebody went in ahead of me at 15 cents. So that was Dr. J going in there. I can just tell a mile away. So you're right. What's the first thing you're seeing me do? Only to short Wells Fargo, and that was it. Do you realize where Wells Fargo went? Go and put that on the 2-period charts. These things do work. Go check this out. What was the low this morning in Wells Fargo? Where is it now? I'm telling you, these things really work. I just missed it. But we have a lot of earnings coming out. Now, what's the caveat? The caveat is if the rest of the banks were going absolutely bonkers, which they're not, or if somebody came out and just pounded the table on Wells Fargo, which they weren't. So, just keep that in mind. So let's look at a bunch of other charts in here. Don't throw out Apple yet. If this ratchets up, the ATR trailing stop, and gets under that, it could go to 175. I'm just not touching it yet. So did anybody short Wells Fargo? I can't believe how well it worked, and I missed it. I'm hoping somebody shorted it. The problem with the Wells Fargo is the puts on the opening were 60 cents. They just weren't there to short. To buy the puts. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. You'll see. The 63 puts, they did get to 23 cents. I didn't see them that cheap. That was a great risk reward. I missed them. But what happens? If the stock surges, the worst you're going to lose is, let's say you bought them at 30 cents. So I missed them, and I'm sorry about that. Kevin, are you short? I thought you did them. All right. So let's look at a couple more. Let's go back to ALXN. Like I said, it doesn't mean these are going to work. I just want you to understand that. It just doesn't mean they're going to work. But to me, it's a wonderful risk reward. I would like to see it start to act a little better, which it's not. So I'm not touching it until it crosses back over something. So the other one, remember I mentioned about Roku around 45. It's another one we're going to have to watch after the opening. Let's see how it works this off. If it works it off this bad, then you got to go in and buy the 44 puts if they're cheap enough. But, let's see what happens in the next hour. That's what I do. So give me 1 second. Just want to see something real quick. There. All right. So, yeah, you got to understand we're in a market that, I was going to tell you, we're in a market that forgives everything. The problem is the calls open too high. But yeah, we got to trade Facebook both ways today. There's no doubt in my mind we have to. And what else are you seeing in here? The typical thing that if Facebook's down but the NASDAQ has to go up, then the rest of the NASDAQ stocks are going to go up. So if you want to go and mess around with this, I'm going to short 100 shares of Apple, and I'm going to stop myself at the high today. So I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm going to go stop myself up here. I'm probably going to get stopped out real quick. I'm risking $15 to make $1. I mean, $15 to make $100. That to me is a good old risk reward. You know, and I'm only going on this. A 1 minute chart right there. Do you see it? And I'm stopping myself right over here. So, you know, if I'm wrong, I'll try it again later. I mean, I've done this stock 1,000,000 times. Overall, the chart looks fine. But, you know, it's worth a try. I probably should have shorted it right there when it makes a new low. But so I'm in it, and we'll see what happens. Wow. There goes Apple. Well, now I got to just buy it here. It's not going to go straight down, I don't think. I already missed it, but now you see the idea that it's getting pulled. All it is getting pulled down. Doesn't mean it's going to go down all day. As you see, it's just not that bad. I know that if I buy it back, everybody else will make money on it. And I'm off by a penny. I can't handle it. I got filled. So, I mean, I know that sounds silly in here, but it's, you know, it's a confidence builder. It's like $23 like that. Just like that. So if you want to see it again, all I did was try to be disciplined. I wouldn't short the first break of the 9 EMA. I shorted the second break. It's now under the ATR trailing stop. This could go all the way to 175. My only problem is it's already oversold here. But did anybody else do that? You know, I thought that was a pretty cool one. And that, like I said, it's not a big trade, and I wish they had 176 puts, but it's an interesting, you know, it shows you what I trade and how I trade it. And the other thing, if you're going to trade Wells Fargo, you have to keep this in mind. Forget about the initial sell-off right when the earnings come out, right to here. It really consolidated right there this morning. And where did it stop? At the consolidation. If you shorted it up here, that's where you buy it back. You know, so I hope these traders' tricks help. You know, let me show you a different one. Totally different. So don't think of me as Mr. Perma Bear in here. Look at JP Morgan prior to the open. It was way up and way down. But where was it trading at 9 o'clock? 111.47. Where did it open? 110.96. It went back to where it was trading. These things are really cool that they work. And I'm telling you right now, those type of ideas are enough to make a living in this business without saying, I know the market's too high, screw it. I'm just going to buy 100 puts in the SPX and walk away like Doug Cass does. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, there's a time and a place to do things. And if you're going to mess like this, just pick your spots. By the way, HOG just kept going. Just motoring higher, that's for sure. Damn, missed that one. The other thing I want you to see, before you think for some reason that we're going down, you got to respect the measuring gaps. Look at the one today. See it? In this type of environment, you got to watch out that it goes up by, another 8 points, gets you to 27.78. So when you have that in mind, it's a lot easier to know what you want to buy or short. So just keep that in mind. Did you see why Tesla went down yesterday? Did everybody see that? This has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Did anybody see this story? Sex party. And what's so funny, Dave, is when you say Musk at the sex party, that sounds like the cologne from the 1980s. It's just sort of funny about that. But I think that might be why it sold off. So I'm very curious to see if we're going to go back up today. So in here, but in Tesla. But I think Tesla was going on crude oil. So crude oil starting to rally. Let's look at Tesla real quick. It still doesn't look right, does it? But that butterfly worked. If you're new in here, we were going on this on the far left and saying if it broke there, you could buy the 35, 40, 45 call fly yesterday at 83 cents. And right now it's over $2. So, we were looking at that. By the way, one other thing I want to show you in here. Is I wanted to show you Square, because Square acted great yesterday, but if you weren't in it and you want to buy it today, remember I told you about people disappointed when it doesn't get taken over? It's not time yet. You got to wait for that cross. Just have to wait. So, just keep that in mind. So I haven't done anything in there because it's real easy to say you just want to buy it now. Just close your eyes and buy it. And I just can't tell you to do that yet. I just can't. So, just keep that in mind. If you do want to do something for a backstop trade, go look at Wells Fargo again. Because look where you short it. Right here. And you back yourself stop right here. You have a 20-cent stop to make 50 cents. You see the backstop a mile away on both time frames, right here. So if you want to go short it right at the ATR trailing stop and stop yourself a little above it, I understand. The biggest thing you have to watch is Citigroup and JP Morgan to see if they explode higher. Maybe that theory is out. Yeah, Kevin, I actually just submitted my resume there, just to let you know. No, we're seeing an interesting divergence in here. So you got me right now of what to do because you got the 3Ms and the Boeing still going bonkers. You have that measuring gap in the SPX. So, I think you short Wells Fargo and just put in a stop 7 cents above. That's what I think you do. It was 62.67. The 63 puts, to me, the risk reward isn't there. This is going to be great to revisit later in the day. No doubt about it. Facebook now, I'm not going near. Let me show you why. It's under everything. All it did, look at this. It worked off. It's oversold on a 2-minute chart. Do I want to short it in this market? I don't want to touch Facebook. But some analyst is going to say, well, they came out actually really cautious in it. If you want to go take a shot, you could buy the 79 calls, I guess. But, I mean, it seems like huge news to me. I mean, the 80 calls. I'm not paying $1 for something that has to go up 2 points just to break even. Goldman Sachs acted so bad the last couple of days. Just a second. My dogs just opened the door and came in my office. So just a second. Cute dogs. I think you don't touch Goldman Sachs till the day of earnings and do that same kind of flattening the position trade. I just don't want to touch it yet. Yeah, dogs in the Dow. No, I gave them a squeaky toy. They're happy now. But same thing. I think you mess around with Goldman Sachs prior to the opening. In fact, prior to the earnings. Go to briefing earnings and let's see if there are any Tuesday morning earnings. Remember, we have Monday off. And see if you have any of those flattening of the trades. Here we go. Right here. AZZ. Citigroup. I thought, wait, let me see something real quick. 1 second. Just want to see something. Amazing. Just want to double check something. Yeah, Citigroup's earnings are coming out. So I messed that up. So let's put in earnings Tuesday morning. And we're just going to watch those right now. So does everybody know the funky way I do this? All I do is I left click and highlight everything in the field and right click, copy. And then I go into Thinkorswim and I go import, Control V. I don't know if I did it right. There you go. Pretty cool on how that works. So let me and then I double check to be sure I did all of them. So give me a second. You got 7 and I have UNH, Bank of the Ozarks, CMA, C, AZZ. Yeah. So are any of that's what I do. Then I look at things like this is too thin, so I throw that out. Then what I do in here is I'm sure they all have options, which they do. And that's what I do then is I look when the ESs are up 675, I look at what, what if any of them start rolling over. And that's my favorite way to trade in here. So FireEye, more takeover. We need to put PANW up. And remember what I told you about ALXN? It just never got back above its ATR trailing stop. So I never touched it. And if you did buy those calls at 10 cents, you lost 10 cents. It's not that bad. But see what I mean? It just never looked good, so I didn't touch it. I might later, but not now. Now, Square, look at this. Still not out of the woods, but it's trying to come back. So I'm going to watch Square real close. But let's go back to these earnings. For Tuesday morning. Does everybody want to see these? I mean, I'm telling you, it's a good way to make money. All right, the idea in here is this. You want to take stocks not like this, that are in straight up mode. You want things near resistance. Ozark, no. Citigroup, we know that's straight up. But I'm telling you right now, Citigroup might be a trade by the end of the day on the downside, believe it or not. Traders might want to flatten their position. We'll see what happens. So we got to watch that very closely. FRC, that's a good one. It's just not that liquid. But here's a stock that was just 85. If this crosses here, see this line? This is a great short. Check this out. If that breaks in here, now it's only up 5 cents. You were betting on it being flat by the close. It's already done it. It's flat. So that one, it was hard because you didn't get the exact triggers. So let's see some more. CMA. Who knows in UNH? Let me just tell you, this is a really, really wild stock, obviously. If this breaks 228, I doubt they'll try to flatten the positions in it. But let's just see if they what the weeklies look like. That's the ticket. You want to take a cheap shot. You buy the 227.5 calls. I'm not doing it until it crosses, but I'm going to have that on my watch list. All right, the puts. The theory isn't that I'm bearish on everything. The theory is that traders by the close might want to flatten a little, but I don't have enough triggers yet, so I'm not touching it. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to put old UNH up here to watch it like a hawk. But let me just show you. If you're thinking about shorting the overall market, you really need to watch this. Other than Wells Fargo we've talked about, and other than Apple we talked about, everything else, Alexion looks bad. Like I said, I'm not buying these till I get the trigger. But look at the S&P stocks. Look at McDonald's, 3M, Boeing. Then you got the rumor Textron rumor. So I'm just fascinated on how, nothing looks bad yet. Yeah, well, here's another one for you, by the way. Give me a second. The VXX, like I said, it's really hard to get short when people aren't throwing in the towel. But here's another little trader trick. You see these? These are for the put call ratios. When all of them are under 55, usually you have a sell-off. We're getting close. That means how many puts are bought for calls compared to calls. And right now, it's pretty low, but it's not extreme. So, I look for extremes, especially in a really strong market. The advanced decline, here we go again. It's acting lousy, and it's probably interest rate sensitive stocks. Let's see how some of these are doing. Wow, this stock's getting killed. I hope nobody bought it yesterday, if you know what I'm talking about. There were just some other pundits wanting to buy this stock at 46, and I said to avoid it. So I hope everybody avoided that because I said to. But when you see the advanced decline like that, the first thing I know you're thinking is, what's down? Everything looks like it's up. So let's show you. Go to the New York Stock Exchange. And I'm trying to go slower. Mike P wanted me to go slower. What's down in the new? See, all I'm doing is public NYSE. What's down? Some of the tech stocks like Red Hat. Chipotle's down, but like I told you, it's up against resistance. Public Storage is a REIT, and things like that. So, Consolidated Edison is having another limp day in here. So, just keep that in mind. So that's what's down. And everything else is sort of up. So that's what I'm telling you. I'm just not going crazy here at all about shorts. But if I'm bearish on bonds, why would I go near the utilities and try to pick a bottom? So, just keep that in mind. By the way, I'm of all of them in here, I'm thinking about buying a put in Citigroup. If this stock at the minimum goes to 76, just a little down, these puts go to 55 cents. I was just going to buy them at 32 cents. I just missed them. That's a good risk reward. So I'll probably go in and try to buy one. They're only 20 cents in the money, but this way, if the stock explodes, I'm fine. Nah, it hasn't broken yet, but I'll try to buy one. I missed them already. That way I can just walk away. If this stock goes to 77, all I lose is, let me do this. I want to wait. Let me show you why I'm going to wait in Citigroup. I want to see this break. Now, if I want to go ahead and short 100 shares and stop myself at the high, I completely understand. Look at the negative divergence. See that? I thought about the 76.5, but I'll probably just short stock and have a stop up here. That's probably what I'll do. This is the old traders trying to flatten by the close. And then I'll put at the old high. That's all I'm doing. That's all I did was this. I put in the stop right over this. And like I said, if I'm wrong, I've been wrong a million times. It's a better short right here. If it breaks there, the first stop is right here. If it doesn't hold there, the next stop's here. And then down to here. So it was just an interesting risk reward. So, keep that in mind. So, by the way, here we go again. I know it sounds like a broken record. Look on the far left. Look at earnings Tuesday. Look what's going on now. UNH just sold off a friggin' dollar after I told you about it. I can't believe it. Traders flattening. CMA starting to sell off. FRC's already unchanged. Bank of the Ozarks already sold off. INFO already sold off. I can't believe UNH went down that fast. I'm just fascinated. What's the relationship between bonds and utilities? Utilities have a relatively high interest rate. So what happens is, dividend yield. So if bond rates go up, then there's pressure to go into bonds and get out of your utility stocks. So what happens is it just is a competition for your money. And utility, by nature, a stock is more risky than a treasury bond. So that's why they go down. Same with the REITs, the real estate investment trusts have a really high dividend. So the same thing. So I can't believe, did anybody just say, screw it, I'm going to short UNH at 22.50? I had 28.50. That's what you're talking about fast, and I just wasn't fast enough. Now oversold. I wouldn't be surprised if it came back to test right here. But does everybody see what I'm talking about traders wanting to flatten by the close? They haven't done it in Citigroup. That's the only one. Maybe it's because JP Morgan acted so well. But, it works pretty well. Yeah, I'll tell you though, you can't really. Twitter, we already had called that if it broke here, it was going to go higher. Right there. Now, this is what's going to kill you on this. Not you, but I mean me. Is I saw it at 24.50 this morning and didn't do anything. Watch this. When I saw about Facebook, I saw that. And then I saw that. And I didn't pick up on it. So let me put Twitter on the left so you know what I'm talking about. So you have a longer term chart in Twitter, even a 15-minute chart. See that? Right there. Now I know if you'd gone farther back, that was actually the trend line. So right here, you could buy it before the opening. So I'm going to be on the last hour today. Not for 3 hours, but just an hour. So let me see some more in here. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some stuff to do because we're so extended. A lot of these stocks could have moves either way on the close. So I just wanted to stay on a little longer today. And, I hope this helps. So even C is sort of working. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. So we'll see what happens, but I'll be back on later. Thanks for being with me, and I hope this helps. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope most of these trades worked fine. Apple, you just had to be quick. So take care, and I'll talk to you later.